My beautiful guest today is Monique Rebel. We discuss her traumatic past that led to her full Kundalini rising experience, which seems to be a bit of a theme on the podcast at the moment, which then leads to an explanation of our multidimensional consciousness system. Mouthful, huh? She then perceived, developed, and has been using this system to successfully help others applying the knowledge about the subtle body, Kundalini, and chakras from this viewpoint. Seems to be a theme, I know. And also, if you enjoy this episode today, I definitely recommend you jump on and my recent conversations with Aaron Abke and Lawrence Edwards, where we dive into these topics as well. And of course, if you're not sure where to start, there's some links below where we offer a free 7 days of meditation. It's a beautiful place to start. And we're also running retreats internationally, I'm happy to say now, not only within Australia, but we will be in Portugal in July 2023, depending on where you are watching this. Anyway, that's all below. Enjoy this. Leave a comment, hit the subscribe button. I don't know whether you're on Spotify, iTunes, or YouTube, but let me know. It means a lot. Enjoy. Monique, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Guy.
I'm so happy. I say this all the time when the guests come on, but I'm genuinely so happy that you're on today. I feel like a kid in a candy store so often because I'm constantly exploring I guess the work that I have a podcast, a platform to have all these different conversations and this inquisitive curiosity about it. And I stumbled across you. Like I was saying, I have no idea how I stumbled across you and reached out to you like some random Welshman in Australia asking you to come on the podcast. And
it was
so
awesome.
I'm grateful you're here. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, I'm honored. I checked several of your podcasts, and it's wonderful. This is exactly up my alley as far as the focus and interest of my life. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you tell people if you're at an intimate dinner party and somebody asks you, what do you do for a living? How do you respond to that?
It's not difficult for me because all my life I have been an artist, and I started painting when I was painting in oils when I was 14, and I did some other art forms too, but mainly it's two-dimensional painting. So this is something that I can always say, and sometimes people are curious, a little bit more curious, what else? And so I also add that I'm a spiritual teacher and an author of a book. And when I say, sometimes I say, lately I've been saying more often that I'm an artist and a spiritual teacher. And when I mention that I'm a spiritual teacher, I add to it non-religious, so people don't get an idea that I'm, teaching morals or something like that.
Yeah, I hear you. What is a response to a spiritual teacher? What kind of response do you get to people? And how would you explain, or what does spirituality mean to you? How do you
Mm.
explain that? Because it's a concept that I guess, has changed for me dramatically over the years.
Right, for me too. And before my experience, I had a very vague idea, and I guess that most of people who I talk to or meet and happen to have the conversation about spirituality, I guess they may be somewhat in the same place, or maybe because I'm much older and my experience was a long time ago, they already know much more. And when we talk about non-religious spirituality, people connect it with spiritual beliefs and all kinds of spiritual beliefs. So some are many people are practicing yoga, so instantly that comes as they identify it as, okay, so it has to do with yoga. And I think there is so much information these days about different ways that non-religious spirituality expresses itself, that it really depends who you talk to, what you can how you can continue the conversation, because some people are instantly sort of turned off in a way, because they think that it's all woo woo stuff, and they don't do anything like that. They're just far away. And I understand that, because when a year before my experience someone mentioned chakras to me, I was like, yeah, right. Haha, they're just, this is just too much. Okay, I have an idea there may be something out there beyond the reality that we are able to perceive, but that stuff, that's just way too much. So I didn't I know that it's just really depends, it really depends on the person.
Mm.
Yeah,
What?
and on a group of people too, because I have connection with where I live in Reno, Nevada. There is a group of community, spiritual community, so it's easy to connect
Mm.
with them. But then there are other people that either are interested or not. No, it depends. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, there's nothing like direct experience as your teacher, which erodes a lot of beliefs or unconscious beliefs that we have around these topics.
Yes, and to me, belief is not really something to hold on to. I teach that beliefs, and I have this image here. I don't know if there is a way for you to show that, because I whenever I talk, I teach about the chakras as dimensions of perception, and beliefs are actually a combination of the second, which is the emotions, and the third, which is the mind. So they can change. They change, depending on how we feel, or depending what happens next. I try to compare, when I teach, I compare faith and beliefs. Faith is something that comes from the fourth dimension, which is the universal love. And when you have faith, that's forever. That doesn't change. But beliefs change. So, 100 years ago, people believed this and that, and they had ways of expressing it. And there was also new age spirituality in the Art Nouveau movement, and it wasn't like today, but it was somewhat reminiscent. But faith, you can look as far as, beginning of our civilizations, is that's something that's in the heart. So that's where the power is.
Mm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And at one stage in your life, I know you were somebody that had lost faith, I guess, if you could frame it that way. And do you mind taking us back a little bit before you had your own awakening and
Yes.
realization to this work, and I guess what took you to that point of awakening?
Yes, absolutely. Maybe I should start a little earlier, just to
Please.
create a picture of who I was from the time when I started to make my own decisions about life. Um, I was 14 when I decided to become an artist, and I was considering becoming a scientist. And then I thought, I think if I focus on art, I will have more freedom to explore. My interest was, as probably many teenagers would have an idea that they want to find the truth, and that was my goal, to find the truth. For many reasons, it was not easy. I was born in a communist country, and we were occupied by Russia. So I was born in Poland. So I always got all these different information about history. In my home, my family, we were talking about history in a different way than we were taught in school. So from the very start, when I started to make my own decisions in those teenage years, deciding about what I want to do in my life, I wanted to keep my mind independent from any doctrine. I didn't want to accept anything at all. And I thought that, the scientific method is very strict, and art is something that's there is so much more freedom in it. So I became an artist, and then when I was 18, I left Poland. I was going to leave Poland. That was 1976, and there were hard times because of danger of Russian invasion all the time, and people were revolting. There was this whole solidarity movement in early 80s, in 1980, and I left Poland I was going to leave with my boyfriend, but he changed his mind. He just kind of dumped me at the moment when we were going to leave together. So I left by myself, and once I got out, it wasn't easy to get passport and visa. It was really difficult. But once I got out, I never wanted to go back. No matter what, I just didn't want to go back. I just kept on moving forward. And from London, I moved to Amsterdam. And then I lived in Paris for a year. All that time, I studied a little bit, but not much of art, here and there. A little bit in London, a little bit in Amsterdam, movie production, and I painted in Paris. I hooked up with a nice group of painters from Germany. So it was this whole European time for me, as far as my learning about art and being one of the artists in the art community. At the same time, I also had a child. I wasn't. It was something that just happened. I had a child with the man that didn't want to come with me to London, but he came and visited me later. I got pregnant, and I didn't. Long story short, I was with a child, and at some point, he again decided that he doesn't want to be with me anymore. So I thought, because I grew up without father, I wanted my daughter to have father. So I took my daughter for 2 months to Poland, and then I couldn't get her out because of this whole uprising, a whole political situation. If I went back, I wouldn't be able to get out. So for years, actually, I was not able to get my daughter out of Poland, and it was very difficult for me emotionally. But I was hoping that I'll make money with my art, and I'll be able to bring her and have her with me. In the meantime, I came to United States in 1986 with a boyfriend at the time, and kept on painting, and finally I always had shows. I always had some sort of prestige, but it was never stable. It was always sporadic sales. There were more shows than sales. And then eventually, at some point in 1988, I had this incredible. I came to Los Angeles. I I separated with my boyfriend. We came. He's American, and we lived on the East Coast, but we separated, and I came to Los Angeles, which was always my kind of idea. Now, what is Los Angeles like? I just wanted to know, and it was very interesting. I lived there, and I had this incredible, when I was painting, I had this incredible epiphany. And I didn't know what it was, but I was able to break through another dimension while I was painting. And then my art changed and became all very abstract, even harder to sell than the ones I was doing before. So for 4 years, I was working on those abstract paintings. And again, I got interest and had some shows and had good shows and good places and good exposure. But I was broke. And I had a terrible relationship with my mother, who in the meantime kept my daughter, and I was not able to get her out. So all in all, I became very depressed that I'm not able to. I failed as a girlfriend, as a wife. I failed as a mother. And now I failed as I can't support myself. I don't know how to live. And I didn't want to give up my art ever, no matter what. It was teaching me so much. It was giving me so much information that one day I just thought it makes no sense for me to keep going. And I was on my way to the store. I left my studio. I had the studio in this attic in this old Victorian house, incredible house. It was a great space, very dusty, but great space. And I lived there, no water, electricity, but no kitchen, nothing. I lived there for almost 10 years. And with all my abstract paintings. Wow. And I was going to the store to get those razor blades. I just was certain that my mind was telling me that I have to do it. And then when I was passing by the bathroom, I suddenly got an idea that maybe if I take a shower, it's going to soothe me. The water is going to soothe me. So I went, I let the water run in a tub, and I got in the tub. As soon as I got in the tub, that terrible urge, that hatred I had for myself, that urge to get out and do it. So I had to start to control myself. I tried to fight with that urge to destroy myself. And when I began doing it, it was something that I've done before while painting. So there we come to painting as art, as therapy, and I'm teaching that too. I used to be very depressed because before that suicidal those suicidal thoughts and that decision came, I was depressed for months and I couldn't get out of bed. But still, I was painting, and when painting, I was able to forget about all that pain that I felt and suddenly focus on my painting. And I could even sometimes feel the energy going from the brush, from me on the brush into the painting and disappearing in it. So I was trying the same thing, but I was in the tub. I could not paint, and I didn't want to paint. The emotion was so powerful. I could not do anything, but it took me all of my attention, all of my power to focus on that emotion. What is it? And I looked into it. What is that emotion? what does it do to me? How does it make me feel? I suddenly was able to see it, to just penetrate it with my mind, to feel, not only feel it, but to see what is it. Then I called it a name. I gave it a name. And the name I gave it was depression. But, I didn't really, it doesn't matter if it's correct or not clinically, scientifically. It clicked with me. I realized, okay, so this is the depression. And then I could see it, realize that it was above me like this gray cloud. And it was making me feel so awful. And then I realized that I wasn't it, that it was that emotion that was making me feel that way. So I made a decision of stepping out of it. You see, as soon as I could, and also when it got a name, before it has a name, it has no limits. We don't know what it is. It's limitless. It's everywhere. We feel it's everywhere. The world is bad. Everything is bad. But when you know what it is, it has limits. It's not anymore anger. It's just one emotion. It has to be that one. It's just that one word that's defining it. And then when you know that it's on top of you, you just move away from it. And I was able to do that. And as I moved away from it, in psychology, we have all these, the advice we're given to think about something good. When you feel bad, think about something good, and so on. That's not it. When you step out of it, I found myself in a space that I've never experienced before in the same way. And I called it emptiness, and I still call it emptiness when I teach, because it was a state with no emotion. I stepped out of that emotion. I didn't fight it, because then it grows. I didn't try to ignore it, but I just moved myself away from it, knowing that it's nearby. But I was without it. And as I was without it, I found myself in that space where you can visualize it as a landscape without a focal point. There's just nothing to focus on, nothing to hold on to in that landscape. So it's not a great feeling, but it's not a bad feeling either. It's a vacuum. Mm-hmm. It's an emotional vacuum. And once I was there, without the emotion, I realized that all I have is my breath. That's all I had, because normally in life, we're always on some emotional level, right? We're somewhere, either curious or unhappy or excited or bored or whatnot, even in this regular life without a big drama, we always are somewhere. But when you're nowhere, no emotion, and I didn't know what's to do next, but I found myself being in that incredible state. I started to breathe just really slowly and focus on my breath. And then once I could focus on my breath, I realized that even though I have no emotions, it was coming back, it was coming back, and I had to do the same. I had to find it again and step out of it again. It wasn't easy to make it stable right away, but I did eventually. After several attempts, I made it stable. That emotion was not bothering me anymore at all. But I saw that my mind kept on going back to the same thing, telling me the same thing. What did you do wrong? How did it happen? How did you end up that way? What am I supposed to do now? What's the solution? How am I going to fix the mistakes that happened years ago? No, I can't fix it. Everything is here now and I can't fix it anymore. And once I realized that, this is the surrender of the mind. I surrendered to that thought. I could not, the thought that, okay, this is it. I have no other solution for myself. My emotions are not bothering me anymore, but my mind is telling me that the right thing is to end my life. So I agreed to it. And there I was in the tub with my eyes closed. I surrendered. I've never done that before. It's not easy to do, but when I teach it, I teach that the mind, the third chakra, which opens us up to the third dimension of mind and will, we need to narrow the focus. And when we think about something, narrow the focus. Think about one idea. Just like with one emotion, there's one idea. This one idea, keep on thinking about it until the resolution comes, whatever it is. It could be positive or negative. But there is just one thought that's the result of our narrowing of the focus. And, if we compare it to what's known about the processes that spiritual teachers are teaching, it's the same, let go of your mind, have one thought and so on. I never thought it was possible. I never practiced it myself in the past, but at that point in my life, I had a chance to actually observe it, how narrowing of the focus can bring one thought. And when we can surrender that one thought. So there I was in that tub without any decision, but surrender the thought of, yes, I have to, this is what I have to do. This is the solution. And then I opened my eyes. And when I opened my eyes, I saw, and I knew I wasn't hallucinating, I wasn't imagining it. There was a tube of rainbow light, a tube of rainbow light right in front of me, moving slowly, and it seemed like it was coming out of me. And I looked at it and I saw it, and I was looking around and thinking, where could it be coming from? But there was no source of it. It was not a reflection from the window. There was nothing that told me that that's where it was coming from. It was from beyond my scope of understanding about life, beyond anything I knew. And because that's what it was, and it was beautiful, and it was just moving, the rainbow. I got so scared. I got terrified. When I finally realized that it was from the world I didn't know, I had no clue about it. I wanted to jump out. I made a step of getting out of the tub. There was water running. I turned everything. I just was getting up and ready to run out into the hole screaming. But I saw that the rainbow was moving with me. I couldn't get rid of it. So I had that option. I knew I can still freak out and just run out of the bathroom. The house was empty, and I knew there was no one there, but that was my option. And the other option was to stay and watch and see what happens. And that's what I decided. So I stayed. I sat, and I was sitting there waiting if anything else would happen. And then it started happening. I had the kind of, yes, so I was sitting there ready for whatever would happen. And I started to see images of a child. I didn't know that child. I didn't know who that was. I was looking at it from above, kind of in a like maybe 6 feet distance. And I was able to, it was all happening by itself. So, I just tuned into that child's psyche, and I could see that the child was making decisions. It was 2.5 years old child, maybe, making decisions, was confronted with situations where it had to make decisions. And it kept on going, the stories. And then shortly after the first story, in the second story, I'm like, this is me. I was that child that I was looking at. This is my life story. And as I caught on to that child's, that was me in the past, I was 35 when that experience happened to me. The child was 2 years old, so 2.5, 3 years old, so 32 years before. This incredible thing happened that I was able to follow the development of this child's thoughts. That was my life as I made my decisions throughout all of the time in between those decisions were made until the present time. And as I was, my mind was naturally following all of my thoughts. And they were gathered in like trains of thoughts, dreams, work, school, relationships, just those few. We have few of them. It's not endless. We have few of those trains of thoughts. And my mind was able to follow all of them, everything that happened that was important in making decisions and creating your personality, creating your who we are, right? And as soon as the thought came to the present moment, it vanished. It was resolved. All those issues that we have sleeping in there or sitting in there, in that third chakra, that's what creates our personality. All those mental structures, all those systems that we learn ourselves and we learn from others, it's all there. And yes, there is a time when the mind is able to clear it all up. So all of my thoughts came to the present time. It took a few minutes. And there I was. I knew there were no more thoughts. Only I was observing and thinking, okay, so now I was able to observe my thought that was asking about problems. Yes, I can. This mind is free from any restrictions. This mind can find solution to any problem. It's like a perfect computer when it doesn't have the obstruction of what we're supposed to believe in or who we think we are. The mind is excellent. Any problem can be solved. So there I was, from being suicidal, depressed for months, to suddenly feeling this incredible joy, clarity. In a way, you can call it omniscience, but not in the sense that I know everything, but in the sense that I can find solution for anything. I can go anywhere with my mind, and my mind will find the solution. It's going to work in the way the mind works, in that linear, logical fashion. It's going to reach the goal. And there I was, and that's also, there were other elements of that particular stage when I also suddenly felt that shell that was covering me up, that I was covered in that dried up mud shell. That's the personality that we think we need to carry. That's the ego. Suddenly that shell started to disintegrate and fell off. Just, it turned into this dark, muddy, like smoking, first muddy, then smoky, and just disappeared. And there I was, completely free, elated, and also understanding very well that that's not just me. This is for everyone is able to. Every mind can release thoughts that are stuck in there. Our mental systems that create our personality, mind can release that. It just takes a little bit of effort and to know the right way of doing it. And I also had some years ago, when I was 16, an experience in the library when I felt similar sense of joy, and maybe another time I can talk about that, because it's also very important to put together all the dots and go into the subtle body system, which we know about thousands of years, that it does actually exist, but it's a subtle body system. So it's not here in the first three dimensions that are physical, material, emotional, and mental. But there are four others. If we want to see them as all seven, some see more, and I understand why, because each chakra is very different. Each dimension that the chakras open us up to works differently. So I still didn't know anything about that. I didn't know the word Kundalini. I didn't know any of it. But I was watching, and I was able to tell that my mind was clear, and I decided, okay, well, now let's see what happens next. So I was observing, and the whole thing happened by itself. The next thing, I started to feel no more, there was no more, I was now observing no more rainbow light, but just light everywhere. Just this milky light covering me. Eventually it became a little bit more like glistening gold speckles. And there I was, I felt I was levitating, lifting up. I was so light and felt stronger and stronger, that there is a presence that's coming closer. And that presence was so attractive. And that presence was coming closer to me, kind of giving me, I felt support. First, before it was a definite present, I started to feel support. Suddenly, support. Where is that support coming from? No one knows what's going on with me. No one. I'm sitting in a tub, in LA, in a bad part of town, and there I am, and there is support, and it's coming closer, and I'm feeling that it's embracing me, and eventually I felt a strong tug in my heart. It just like a I felt it physically. It touched me, touched my heart. And then I knew, no, I received love. And I knew that, and I'm going to speed it up a little bit, because it took about 25 minutes, but to describe the whole thing takes longer. because things happen, the thoughts and vision and everything is much, there's much more than the words can tell. So I started to feel that love, and suddenly I was in love. I fell in love with that presence, and I knew it's forever. I knew that that was it. I was in love. I was home. I was forever home. It was all done. I was in love forever, and I felt I am loved. And then I realized that's what Jesus was teaching. That's what Buddha was teaching. That's what great spiritual masters were teaching, because they received that love. It's called receiving the grace. And the song Amazing Grace, that guy who wrote the lyrics to that song was a slave trader in the 1800s, and he was on the ship, from England, from wherever he got the slaves from, to England. And there was a storm, and he was sure he was going to die, and he asked to be saved, and he was saved the moment. I mean, he knew what happened. I don't know exactly, but he received the grace. So that song, Amazing Grace, that was when he received the grace. And it's the same also. Not just that the mind can be free from thoughts and clear. We can clear the second chakra, the emotional one. By the way, it's not sexual and creative at the same time. It's just emotional. That's my experience. And not only we can do that, we can clear the mind from thoughts. We can clear the second chakra from the emotional charge that's so difficult to deal with sometimes. But we can also receive the love and be in love and understand that love is there all the time. And the way I teach is those dimensions of perception. Those dimensions are always there. So love is always there. It's the universal dimension of love. It exists forever. It's only the third dimension, which is the mind, the will and mind, that has the sub-dimension of time. And because of that, we perceive time in our life, and we perceive what we perceive as the changes in physical reality, because there is time. And we comprehend it in that way. Without time, we wouldn't be able to use our mind. So that's the sub-dimension. But you can see that only from the top or from the sixth chakra. And as I received the love and was full of it, I was overflowing. I started to give that love to all the ones that feel lonely, feel lost, can't feel unloved, are troubled because they feel that there is no hope in life. And so that dimension of love has all those concepts. It's not just love, it's justice, it's truth. It's help, it's friendship, it's protection, it's surrender, it's equanimity, it's compassion, it's empathy. It's all of those ideas, the thoughts, the concepts that we don't always find in our reality that we are normally in, because Kundalini, which is the individual unit of consciousness, Kundalini, when it enters and creates the subtle body, that's the consciousness. So everything we see, know, experience, remember, can imagine, feel physically in any way, that's Kundalini. That's the individual unit of consciousness. And that consciousness rests at the bottom of the spine. But for it to experience connection with all that there is, with the universal consciousness, we have to go through the chakras and open them up. And what I teach how to, I don't teach how to awaken Kundalini. That's not the right sequence of action. We need to train the lower chakras and cultivate the upper ones. And some of us, and it just happened to me that I did put a lot of work into focusing and into my artwork and into understanding myself, my thoughts, and who I was and why I was doing what I was doing. But also I did touch upon all the different other dimensions, which I didn't know that's what it was before. But before my experience, I did a lot of thinking, and that philosophical thinking, which is the seventh chakra, which is the seventh dimension. If that one we don't cultivate that one, we can if Kundalini goes up, we can stay in the sixth chakra, in the sixth dimension, and then we are stuck with a god that will tell us what to do. We don't want that. Yeah.
So, question for you.
Yeah.
Question for you then. When working with the chakras, then what do you think is the biggest key component to start working with the subtle bodies? For people listening to this today, because they might be aware, and we get attached to our problems, our emotions, our identity, and then they become a reality, and then we need to put meaning to the experience. So this happened when I was 3, this happened when I was 7,
right.
And we get locked in those, and obviously the subtle body system is holding those emotions and feelings that we're
exactly
repeating.
It is.
So if you were to do like a small footnotes, and well, this is the best way to start working with them, how would you describe that?
Absolutely. This is what I start with, and my first module is the introduction into our multidimensional consciousness system, which includes Kundalini as an individual unit of consciousness and chakras as the gates to the ever-present dimensions of perception. And the way we work, we first learn to identify our Kundalini, which is all that we think, all that we are, all that we know, by going inwards, which is, one of the meditation techniques that many know. So going inwards and realizing that we can exist without any of that stuff outside, even without our families, without our relationships, without our body. We are inside the body, let's say, but we don't want to even think about the body at that moment. We just want to push everything away and find ourselves as that unit of consciousness that exists regardless to anything eternal. So that's a practice that's needed. We're not getting there right away. I remember when I first started to go inwards, it was when I started my first abstract paintings in Amsterdam in the 80s, and I didn't know where to start. I was like, how do you go inwards? I don't know. But by now, many people know many meditation techniques. So I start with that, and then what's most important is to realize what is each dimension separately, because we need to work with each dimension separately. We can't have the same practices for all of the dimension. It's not like one mantra is going to give us enlightenment, although one person can actually maybe experience that, but most of us need to work on especially the second and third chakra, always separately. So well, there is first is the material one, right? So is the physical body, which means that we are, of course, trying to get good nutrition, live in a good environment, and care about the environment and care about our body. In short, there is so much that we know about it, and there is so much focus on that, on the body, body, body. But the transcendence happens by moving that consciousness up, and like the ascetics did in the Buddha times, they were neglecting the body. So it's the same process of kind of forgetting about the body in a way, forgetting about the material, focus on the emotion. What is the emotion? Once you know that one emotion, then you can, through this, it's 7 steps of the practice, but you can step out of it. Then when you don't have that emotion, you're able to stay in that state of emotional emptiness. Then you can observe your mind, because then you're not moving with the emotion here and there. I like this, I don't like that. Oh, I like that, I don't like this, and so on. You just have your mind, and then you can focus your mind on whatever you need to focus it on, and work on focusing the mind. And that's also doesn't happen right away unless you've been practicing, or maybe have the mind that is able to focus so fast and so well to just be focused on one thought. It's work. For everyone is different, but the separation of emotions from mind is essential. We can't do it as the whole ego. And this is where I'm always saying, I don't teach psychology. Psychology, we're just feeling, oh, I'm having this and that, and I'm, my mother and my father and all, and we're just kind of, just taking care of all that stuff. But it's not, we're just building it up. We're just building the ego, building more and more and more and more of thoughts. It doesn't matter what these thoughts are, and it doesn't matter what the emotion is. And it's just, what matters is that we are able to find out what it is, find out that we're not it, and move away from it. And with the mind is that we can, whatever that conclusion is that we are going to get from having that finally one thought coming back all the time. How it is when we're can't figure things out. It's like this one thought, okay, it's this, it's all this, it's all this. I'm no good, whatever it is. So that one thought, when we can surrender that, when we can come to that one thought in our focusing practice, and then surrender that one thought, that's the practice on the lower dimensions. When that's taken care of, it's much easier to find love, tap into the dimension, because these dimensions are there. If the chakra is open, and everyone is different, right? Some of us have the heart chakra open, we feel love, we want to help everybody. For others, it's like, no way, I'm just gonna make money. That's all I think I should do, right? And then there are the upper ones. And when I had, during my experience, what was so amazing was that, well, it's all amazing, but once I was there with that love and realized that I'm just giving love now, and I understood that's all what it's all about for humans, that love is, if we're there, we're okay. Everybody's taken care of, because the presence is taking care of us. It's there. We are loved. Each of us is loved madly, not just okay, not just so, madly, just like the way we want to be loved, the way we dream about. So when I was there, suddenly it started to get blue. all around me. And then I started to hear that music. It was loud, it was getting louder and louder. I'm thinking, who can be playing the music in this empty house at 2:30 p.m. on Tuesday, right? And then I realized that the music was all around me. And it was incredible. It was orchestra, like a heavenly orchestra, those the low sounds of like Buddhist chants, and high octaves of angelic sounds that we're not able to produce. But there it was, that incredible harmony put me in a trance. I was already elated, in love, and there I had that music. And after a while, I started to see the figures coming, figures in robes, and each of them was looking, and they were scrolling down. There were many of them, and I realized they were creators of that music, but there were many more of them. Then some came right in front of me, and they were acknowledging me. I realized they were acknowledging the stage I was in. They knew. So that's the fifth dimension. That's when you can connection, exchange of energy, understanding, telepathy, listening and creating music, performance, any healing processes. That's happens through the fifth dimension. In there we can receive healing, and we can heal, we can help others, and we can get helped. All kinds of beings are there. Akashic records are there. So, and mind you, these dimensions, like the heart, there is no time in there. The time is only in the third one as a sub-dimension, but in the fourth there is no time. In the fifth there is no time. So anything can happen. We can find future and past, whatever we want. It's there, and there is help. And then if we don't, the principles, the ethical principles are about clearing up and using, of course, having the heart open. When we have the heart, I'm showing here, but you don't see that. When we have the heart open, then all communication is based on that open heart. So because in the fifth dimension, bad demons can come, and people are troubled by being, there are all kinds of beings that have not necessarily have bodies, that can come and be a menace, and that's, for that we need to have the heart open, because with the heart open, all that bad stuff disappears. They can't handle it. So anyway, that's the fifth, and this is the this is the collective mind. And some people mistake it, collective mind, for collective enlightenment, but that's not yet it. The collective mind is when we get in that group of people, or the whole humanity, and we experience healing, we experience learning, we experience that sense of togetherness, and the power of it, and the salvation that comes from being with others. But as soon as that was done, and there were the ascended masters, and so they can come, Mother Mary can come, Jesus can come, all kinds of people can come in the fifth dimension, and all kinds, depending who you relate to. And I didn't even know the term as ascended masters. I just realized later that this is who came to me and acknowledged my state. And there I was. So okay, so I am, somebody knows, right? Somebody knows. And then the experience kept on happening, and from the dark blue all around me, the the colors turned to very dark purple, almost black. And there I knew there was a new stage, and there was this matrix. I didn't call it the matrix. I had to ask what it was. There were like laser lines going into infinity and crossing. And I was looking at it and thinking, what is that? I don't know, but I was very, my mind was very clear. So I asked, what is it? And before I got an answer, I also knew that I saw that where the lines were crossing, there were little lights pulsating, little pink and white lights. They had different coloring. Some of them were a little bluish, some of them were more white, but basically there were those little lights pulsating all over that endless landscape of green laser lines. And I was told, this is the matrix of creation. And I actually have a friend who, from the community, from the spiritual community here in Reno, who saw the same matrix of creation, the same image. So these visions, could be all different. In the sixth dimension, the third eye, the visions could be different. This is where archetypes are. This is where religions are, sacred geometry, numerology, I Ching, astrology. All these concepts are there in the sixth dimension. And it's not anymore, as our consciousness moves up, our Kundalini keeps on moving. This is not anymore collective mind, collective understanding and experience, not anymore exchange of energy. This is our individual self-inquiry involved. That self-inquiry starts in the third chakra, when mind is able to observe, but it's most pronounced in the sixth and seventh, because then I kept on just asking questions. I just asked question after question. As I was asking questions, I was giving answers. And so those little lights, that's coded each life. Already, the whole story. It's already there. In another dimension, we don't experience it daily. Realization that it's already designed. We are all worried about tomorrow. Tomorrow, it's already there. It's all there. It's all there in that coded, in that little capsule. And as I realized that, I was wondering, is my life there too? And there I was. I could hover. I just went flying over that whole huge matrix of creation. And after some time, I was led to it. I found my life. It looked just like any other little light. And I knew that was my essence in there. And then when I realized that, I kept on asking and I kept on receiving answers. And the whole thing was unfolding to the point when I realized that from here, I can see down, and I knew exactly where I was. I wasn't transported anywhere. I was sitting in a tub. It was 2:35 or 2:40 p.m. on Tuesday. And I knew exactly all the stages that happened before. And here I was looking at looking at the matrix of creation, thinking, wow, so we are all just farmed on a grid here. That's no fun. I was a little disappointed with that, but it didn't last long. It was just a moment that the next stage came in, and that next stage, maybe before that, I already knew that what I saw, before that, I knew that what I saw down was that the time was also a concept, was also created, that our lives, that together with our each life is created, time is also created. So I was just so close to that creation. Sixth dimension is where creation happens conceptually. So I was there, and I saw, okay, so we're formed on a grid, which is no fun, but then the time is also created. It's not real either. And then this whole atomic explosion happened in silence from within. Suddenly, I just exploded like an atom, like an atomic explosion. And it was so, it's impossible to describe. You understand. It's
No,
impossible to describe.
I understand. Yeah, and
Yeah,
I was going to ask you a question because
sure.
I'm aware I'm running out of time because
Yeah,
I have to honor my commitments in a moment. But what I wanted to ask you to wrap up the podcast, Monique, because what you described so eloquently is so powerful and experience, and I'm there with you every center, every step of the way because I've experienced something similar myself.
yes,
But for
yes.
people that haven't experienced it, it can feel there's a great distance between
Yeah,
those
yeah,
experiences and where we are.
yeah.
So to wrap up the podcast, Monique, what would you say to those people listening right now that have obviously might be in a hole, they might be in a place where there's curiosity, um, wanting to go further, but not sure if they should or how? Should they be frightened? Like, how would you encapsulate, I guess, everything that we've covered today for the listeners to ponder on moving forward? Because there's a
Yeah.
lot in there.
Oh, there is so much, and I haven't even gotten to the top, right? To the seventh chakra, when that breaks open and the whole self-inquiry
Boy, yeah.
process. So, what I would tell anyone who feels disconnected from what I'm saying and disconnected from, like, the source that gives us the inspiration to keep going, is that it's a matter of practice. It's all a matter of practice. No one is without the subtle body system. We all have it. And finding it is really, and I teach it very methodically. So as we were talking, I teach from understanding who we are, and then working on emotions, working on the mind, working on the fourth chakra, feeling the love, learning to feel the love, learning to feel that, learning to connect. Connecting with others is so important. We may feel, and I'm a loner, right? But connecting with others is so important. So it's all there. Everything that we need is within us. And there is a way to get there. It's just a matter of knowing how. So all these that we've been trying to achieve through science, psychology, all kinds of methods, spiritual or not, it's all towards that, finding how to do it. And I'm teaching one of the ways that is in accordance to my experience and my incredible sudden transformation, as they call it, from being suicidal and depressed for months and having serious reasons for it. It's not like it was out of nowhere. Even some people have depression, they don't know how, why, maybe past lives. From that, I became someone who really has certainty, the certainty, not the belief, not the idea, but the certainty that there is a way, and that way is good. It's a good way, and it's always there. So if in trouble, don't forget that. Just know that there is a way.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. And where
Thank you.
can, if people want to check out more of your work, Monique, I'll make sure the links are in the show notes, but please say your website out loud as well for
Sure.
everyone listening.
My website is www.moniquerebel.com. And also my book, I suggest, it talks about my life before the experience itself, describes it on 60 pages. And then I have the last part is the insights. I'm working on a new book. This book, the book that is published, and you can get it on Amazon for sure, or several other places. I imagine Barnes and Noble and different stores that are online, or here in United States, in some places in California and Nevada, in some bookstores. And that's called Transcendence Calling: The Power of Kundalini Rising and Spiritual Enlightenment. And my new book, it's a working title, so it may change, but it is 7 Steps to a Better Human. Uh, our multidimensional consciousness system, overview, and basic practices.
Amazing.
Thank
Amazing. That
you.
sounds fantastic. Thank you so much, Monique, for coming on today. I really appreciate you coming
Uh,
on and everything that you do and put out.
I'm so
Thank you, my lovely.
grateful. Thank you so much. It was great. Thanks.